Welcome to Devlog number 1 for my casual 2D space game called A Little Space. In Devlog 0, I went over some of the many different versions of the game I made in the first year or so of development, and the common thread through that whole video was that I really struggled to figure out how to make the game actually fun and engaging, while also maintaining the casual and wholesome spirit it started with, and which fits with the story I wanted to tell. Since restarting work on the game a couple of months ago, I've made another round of design changes which I think are a big step forward from my previous efforts and are pretty close to the final iteration. So in this video I'm going to give a run through all of those changes and the overall current state of development. But first, just a quick reminder that A Little Space has a Steam page which there'll be a link to in the description. It's currently sitting at 18 wishlists, so if you like what you see in this video, please head on over there and add it to your wishlist to help bump that number up. With that said, how about we go through that new design, starting with for the overall game structure, I stuck with the familiar pattern where the game is made up of a number of worlds, each containing a few levels. In my case, each world, which is called a relay to fit with the game's story, contains 4 levels, which are called sequences. So let's start by looking at the hub world scene for the first relay in the game, which is all I've worked on so far. As explained in the little bit of intro dialogue, and as you can see from the in-game map, the relay is a circle with teleporters to the 4 sequences located around the edge. Obviously I've only got 3 of those in place at the moment, but you get the idea. I made the map markers for the teleporters pulse to try to make it obvious to new players that that's where they need to go, since there's quite a lot going on in the map UI. And a couple of other things that we can see from this map view is that all of the sequences in the relay are available straight away, since I want to give players some amount of freedom in how they approach each relay, and also that the outer sections of the relay are currently blocked off by some purple barriers. So each of the 4 sequences in a relay will be a different type of sequence, which will be mechanically different from the other 3. In previous versions I had dialogue explaining the mechanics of each new type of sequence you encountered, but that really slowed down gameplay in the first relay since obviously all 4 are new. So to reduce the amount of dialogue, and to generally try to improve the game design, I integrated simple tutorials for each type of sequence into the relay scene. For example, the main mechanic for the sequence at the top is just flying through a few stationary nodes around an area. So in order for the player to be able to start that sequence, they first need to fly into one of those nodes to power down the purple barriers and unlock access to the teleporter. It's super simple and doesn't take a lot of thought, but I think it's pretty effective in showing what the nodes look like and how they work. The same idea extends to the other 2 sequences I've made so far. One of them is about pushing buttons on satellites to power them up, so you need to recognise how the buttons work and give it a go before starting that sequence. And the last one on the left is about hitting big footballs into goals, so you need to score a goal to unlock the barriers, which both teaches the player the mechanic and gives them an opportunity to practice with the football physics, which can be a little tricky. Once you've unlocked a barrier, it'll be stored in your save file, so you won't need to do these little tutorial challenges every time you load into a relay, just the first time. And then you can reach the outer section of the relay where you're introduced to the game's first hazards. These big yellow electric fields will give you a shock if you get too close, overloading one of your ship's power cells, which are represented by the health bar in the top left of the screen. Losing all of your health in the relay scene has very minimal consequences, just respawning you back at the centre of the relay. So having these hazards here is really just another mini tutorial, showing the player how they work before they become proper obstacles. And after you've dodged past those, you reach one of the sequence teleporters, which means we've covered pretty much everything about the relay hub world. So with that out of the way, let's move on to as I mentioned earlier, sequences are the game's levels and make up the real meat of the gameplay. If you've watched my previous devlog, there are some similarities in how they work with my November 2023 demo, but I've tried to sharpen up the level design and also add more things to do in every sequence. The core of each sequence is about completing a small number of primary objectives, which will vary from one sequence to the next. So each of the 3 sequences I've made so far has a different type of objective, be that nodes to fly through, satellites to power up, or footballs to score with. But whatever the objectives are, you just need to complete all of them to complete the sequence. The remaining number of objectives is shown in the bottom left of the screen, and you'll need to dodge hazards along the way, since running out of health during a sequence will restart it, resetting all objectives. As we can see from the map, the sequences again take place in circular areas, but these are quite a bit smaller and more compact than the relay scene. And again, similarly to the relay, incomplete objectives map markers pulse to make it obvious they're the main focus. So completing all objectives without running out of health is all you'll need to do to progress through the game. It doesn't matter how long you take or how many times you fail in the process. So I think even with the possibility of failing and having to restart, this design fulfills my aim of making the core gameplay fairly chill and pressure free, while also being more fun than my previous efforts. But I also wanted to add some extra optional layers of gameplay for people like me who appreciate a little extra challenge or have an insatiable urge to 100% complete everything. So first off, each sequence has a target time for you to try to complete all of the primary objectives within. The clock in the bottom left of the screen showing the time for your current attempt has a couple of visual indicators to let you track the target time during the sequence. The bar above shows how much time you've got left, and the clock text starts green, then turns orange when you've got under 5 seconds left, and finally turns white once you're past the target time. There's also a few collectibles in every sequence to spice things up even more. I've recently been playing the remake of Spyro the Dragon, and the way that you collect treasures scattered around every level inspired me to add something similar of my own, with the glowing gems spread throughout each of the 3 sequences. At the moment, each sequence has 32 of them, which I've tried to make nice and satisfying to collect, with these little progressions of notes that play when you collect a few in a row. Like in Spyro, the gems don't all need to be collected within one attempt, and even if you fail the sequence, you'll still keep any of the gems you collected along the way. Then the final collectible is a single secret object hidden somewhere in each sequence, which you'll need to interact with in some way to complete. For the first relay, all of the sequences have a bomb of some sort, each of which is a little Easter egg reference, which you just need to bump into. For example, one of them is this Wind Waker style Zelda bomb, which has a short fuse before it blows up and completes. You might have noticed earlier on that the sequence teleport and map markers in the relay scene each have 4 segments of a circle around them, and those represent the 4 things you can do in each sequence. I know I'll probably need to make colorblind options for these at some point, but by default orange means incomplete and green means complete. So the top segment goes green once you complete the sequence for the first time, the right one when you complete the target time, the bottom after you collect all 32 gems, and the left after finding and completing the secret. There's also a stat breakdown including your personal best time, how many gems you've collected, and if you found the secret in the menu before you start a sequence and after you complete it, though those interfaces are a little bit unpolished and work in progress at the moment. But that more or less sums up the current state of the game. Please do let me know what you think in the comments. Does it look fun now? And does everything I've shown in this video look like it makes sense? I'll hopefully have a playable demo out before too long, but it's not quite in a good enough state for that just yet, so you'll have to judge off this video for now. Again, if you like the look of the game, there's a link in the description to the Steam page, so please head over there and add it to your wishlist. Subscribe to be notified when I post my next devlog, and I will hopefully see you there.